Everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Alles styg of daal op leierskap. John C. Maxwell, one of the leading gurus of our age on leadership. But you know what? Before John Maxwell said that, I heard something very interesting from somebody who was a big leader in my life. My late father, Neil George Hatton, and he said this: everything is a leadership issue. Everything is a leadership issue. And let's explore that a little bit. Just for example, Clifford, are you here? Clifford? No hand up? Okay. All right. Clifford and I were having this wonderful conversation. Maria and Clifford and I were having this wonderful conversation on Tuesday evening. And he was telling me about all of the issues that they face in the Sundays River area and beyond. And talking about water and development and all of that. And I was thinking, but every one of those is a leadership issue. And then, a couple of weeks ago, Lucanio and I were having a conversation, and we continued that conversation on Tuesday evening as well. And he was talking about the measure of success for transformation for him is how quickly does the grower no longer need the grant. That's a leadership issue. That takes great leadership to lead a business, to lead a farm, to lead an industry, to be able to get out of needing grants, to be able to function. And then, I can give you so many examples, but I just want to go with one, and that is Darren Reddy. Are you? Can I see you? You give your hand? There we go. Thank you, Darren. There you are. And we were chatting last night as well, and Darren was telling me a whole lot of really interesting things, and some of them I might come back to later in this presentation, but one of them is the gap between many of the owners, the growers, and the stresses and strains of the managers and the supervisors. What is that? A leadership issue. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, some of you are here thinking, yeah, well, but I don't really consider myself a leader. Many of you are growers, you would consider yourselves leaders. Some of you might not. Well, I believe everybody's a leader. Now, we could define leaders as, well, it's the CEO or the president or the minister or maybe even the pastor. But what about, again, John Maxwell, leadership is influence. If you're a parent, is it your job to influence your children? If you're a teacher, if you are in any way influencing anybody, you are a leader. And so I don't like to think anymore of leadership being a job. I think of leadership being a skill. And it's a skill that every single human being needs. The skills of leadership are vital for anything that you do. Let's just take the parenting one as an example, very quickly. Many of you, hands up if you're a parent. Okay, majority of the audience, parents, right? Okay, so I've got a friend, and he said the following, and he's allowed me to quote it, although he says he thinks he heard it from somebody else, but he can't remember who. And his quote is this: our job as parents is not to raise children. Our job as parents is not to raise children. Our job as parents is to raise adults. Because if they stay children, we haven't done our job. But if they become adults and they can function independently, then we have done our job. That's a leadership job. Now, what about your staff? What about your leadership team? What about my leadership? Where am I in this journey? Am I trying to raise people that I can still kind of command and control and keep in their boxes? Or am I trying to raise them to fly? Even as leaders, our job is not raising children, it's raising adults. That takes leadership. And so all of us here are leaders. I'd like to explore a little bit just some of the things that I've seen. Now, I've been doing leadership development work around the world for over 20 years now, and I've now worked with leaders from more than 100 countries. And one of the things that I keep seeing, I'm keeping seeing certain patterns. And one of them is what I call the 3 current states of leaders. And these can change, by the way. They could even change in 1 week. You could be in one state and by the end of the week in a different state. Okay? But what is the current state of you as a leader? But even more importantly, what is the current state of your leadership team? Your managers, your supervisors, everybody. And so maybe you've seen some of these before. Let's start with this one. That leader that is so focused on their people that they've misinterpreted the beautiful notion of servant leadership as servanthood. They're there, they want to serve their people, they are there for their people, they are dealing with every single problem every day, and every day has fresh problems, and they are there for them, and they are committed to them, and they are striving to give them the best possible deal. They're striving to grow them and to serve them and to be with them. These leaders are leaders in a state that I call the survivor state. They are just trying to get through every day. And well done. It's better than the alternative, right? So they've survived. Well done. Great place to be. Problem is, a leader in a survivor state probably can't take leave. Probably can't, be anywhere else and everything still runs like clockwork because it's dependent on them every day, every moment, all the time. That's the survivor state leader. I'm going to put that in the corner over here. And I'm going to tell you about another state of leader that you've probably seen as well. And I'm sure you've seen this. I'm sure you've even had some at point, maybe a teacher, maybe a parent, maybe even yourself. And this one is where the leader is so results focused. This is all about the profitability and the results and the continuous improvement and the try harder. And the try harder and the try harder. And I wasn't going to do this, but I've got to tell this story. A friend of mine takes his sons fishing. And they get to this place, but they can't get to the actual fishing spot without getting out on one of these pedal boats. And they call them pedaloos, okay? And so his sons get on. He's in the front. He's a cyclist, by the way, very, very fit. His eldest son is as well. And they're going to now get out to the fishing spot as quickly as possible. And they get onto this boat and they pedal. And they pedal as fast as they can. And they are pedaling and pedaling and pedaling. And the boat is going like this. It's hardly moving. What's going on? It doesn't move at all. And eventually they start to get tired. I mean, this type of leader, this results-driven leader is a fuss-bait leader. They can push through, right? But eventually, even this very fit cyclist is starting to get tired. And eventually he says to his son, his 16-year-old son, he says, look, let's just slow down for a little bit. Let's just go take it easy and then we'll push again. But we're really not getting anywhere, but we want to get there quickly. And so they slow down to a slow pedal. And what happens? The boat shoots forward. Because the design of that particular boat, slowing down, sped them up. And so often, our striver leaders are so busy running, so busy pedaling, that, and I mean, well done, these people are working hard, they're diligent, they're taking courses, they're trying to grow themselves, but sometimes the effort doesn't match the result. So let's put that one into a different corner. So now we have these two. We have the survivor and we have the striver. So some of you are thinking, okay, so what we want to be is somewhere in the middle. People-focused and results-focused. Just bring them together. What if that results in now double the effort? Now I've got to be worrying all day about my people and worrying all day about my results and worrying all day about my... Any of you find that familiar? You've seen it? Maybe some of your people? So this thing, so maybe we need a third alternative. So the third alternative is the leader who realizes how important the people are. Whether that's customers, whether that's staff, they realize how important the people are. They also realize just how important the results are. Because otherwise, you're not going to be able to pay your staff. You're not going to be able to have a sustainable business. So the results also matter. But this third category, what they do is they are constantly building capacity inside of themselves. They are saying, rather than being run ragged by the results or run ragged by the people, maybe I need to build the wisdom of Solomon inside of me. Maybe I need to grow myself to be a different kind of a leader. And this leader we call the thriver leader. Now, the thriver leader is another state of leadership. So we've got the survivor, the striver, and now the thriver. And the thriver is one who sometimes is on this lonely journey of let me create in me leadership capacity, because I know everything rises and falls on leadership. So let me create the capacity in me to be a leader that is going to make things rise, not fall. Let me create the capacity in me that will see me through, that won't suddenly be that this once esteemed leader suddenly is on the front page of the newspaper for, I don't know, fraud, affairs, whatever it might be. Because you see, the thriver leader is making sure that the leadership is from self first and then to others. So that then brings us to the three main points I'm going to be talking about. Thriving through tough times. So thriving through tough times is our topic. We want to think about how can we thrive. And I was trying to calculate this morning how many times I heard the word volatile or how many times I heard the word complex. Maybe we can complete the VUCA: volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. All right? And that talks about tough times, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But if we have the leadership capacity, we've got what we need to see it through. So I'm going to suggest to you three things. The first thing is create capacity through being conscious. Create capacity through being conscious. Great leaders build capacity all the time in themselves and their team, their leadership team. They're constantly building capacity in themselves and their leadership team. And so we're going to start off with this. Great leaders create capacity through being conscious. And I want to start with this. What is the current state of your consciousness and your team's consciousness and your leader's consciousness around the industry that you're in? We have the macro things that we've heard so much about over the last 2 days. We've heard about the political changes and the socio-politicals and the wars and the economic things that are happening and tariffs and all of these things. And I guess, if I had to guess, most of you are pretty conscious about this. I mean, that's why you're here. That's what you've been listening to for the last 2 days. You've been gathering all that information. So you are pretty conscious about the industry, the economy, the market. Labor, interesting. But I think you're probably pretty conscious about that too. And maybe the state of your farm, you're growers. You're probably pretty aware of what's going on. Do you have enough water? So these external factors, you probably have an incredible consciousness about. And if you don't, that's probably what you've been learning the last couple of days, and well done to you. But I want to venture that there's another part of consciousness. And by the way, I'm not suggesting you have to do that. But I want to suggest that there's another part of consciousness, and it's the internal consciousness. Now, one of the things I find really, really fascinating is that we are quite complex as human beings. We have like 85 billion neurons in our brains, and each one supports 15,000 synaptic connections, and that means that we're all definitely unique. It's statistically impossible to find somebody out there who has the same brain wiring as you. You are unique. Are you conscious of your uniqueness? Are you conscious of your own genius? Every one of you has a genius. Every one of you has something that you do better. In fact, imagine this. If you are unique, genuinely unique, so unique that there's nobody who's ever lived who's ever been like you, and there never ever will be anybody who will ever live that is exactly like you, does that not maybe mean that you bring something to the world that nobody else could? That you therefore have a unique purpose? And that's just the wiring of the brain. Then we've got these bodies, we've got these intuitions, which now, by the way, through research is shown to be high-speed logic. So intuition, do we trust our intuition or do we not? And do we test it? And our hearts, what about our beliefs? What are the things about that we believe? What about our emotions? Great leaders are emotionally intelligent. How do you become emotionally intelligent with your people if you've not accepted your own emotions? Now, I know some of the guys here think, yeah, you know, I'm a rugby supporter. I don't have emotions. That's the department of women, you know. Yes, I don't have emotions. So I want to just ask you one simple thing. If I placed a camera on top of your television that was filming you while the Springboks were playing, am I perhaps going to see some emotions? Am I going to see people who want to kill the ref? Am I going to see people who want to kill the person who dropped the ball, or shout or cheer or celebrate the try? We're all emotional. It's part of being a human being. How in touch with you are, or how in touch are you with your emotions? How in touch are you with your emotions? Or is this one of those when you go, it's too much being a leader? Everything rises and falls on leadership. So what we want to do is we want to become aware of all of our capabilities, and when we are internally aware, we are better equipped to lead externally. When we know ourselves, we can know our people. When we know our emotions and know how to manage them and how to deal with them and not be caught up by them, we can know how to deal with the emotions of our people. This is critical. But some of you are thinking, this is a bit too woo-woo for me. Well, you are people of the earth. You are people of nature. You already have your own meditative practices, like going for a walk in the orchard, like connecting, maybe that early morning cup of coffee on the stoep. You see, that's the time to connect with self. So I'm going to divert slightly and tell you a little story about me, and so that you understand where I'm coming from with this. So I used to work for a little software company that you may have heard of called Microsoft. You might have heard of them. So I used to work for them for about 5 years. I headed up the product marketing function. I was a leader there. But eventually what happened to me is I got disillusioned with the leadership that I saw, including my own. So I decided to leave. I did a master's degree in organizational leadership, and I thought, well, now 20 years of IT experience and leadership experience, plus now this master's degree in organizational leadership, I'm going to go and change the world. I know I have the answers. The world has the problem, and I have the answers. And I started a business, and I started consulting. It didn't go so well. And one of the things that I discovered eventually is that leadership doesn't start there. It starts here. And in 2011, I had a triple whammy. My wife divorced me, I lost my business, And I left my church that I'd been involved in for 15 years and partially founded. And now I had to look in the mirror, because now I had the long, dark night of the soul. Now I had to look and see, do my values really align with what I say? Here is the inner journey. And this inner journey got me to the place where I went, let me discover who I really am. And if you speak to any of the leaders that I mentor, CEOs and so on, the one thing that they'll be able to tell you about me, actually there's probably three, but one of the three is this. My number one job today is me. As a leader, my number one job every day is me. Not my only job. I've got lots of other jobs. But my number one job is me, because if I am not developing me as a leader, how can I expect my people to develop? If I am not improving, if I am not investigating, if I'm not discovering what are the gaps in my leadership, if I'm not interrogating my own values, if I'm not doing that, if I'm not discovering all my faculties, if I'm not discovering my genius, how can I expect my people to operate in their genius? As a leader, my number one job today is me. And I would like to suggest to you, find practices that work for you on this. Find a way to do it. So, this means that there's one more little thing that you can do to become more self-aware, or aware of your leaders, by the way. Not just you, but your leadership team as well. And that is assessments. There's great assessments like Strengths Assessment, StrengthsFinder, and teaming assessments like Standout, and so on. So, but assessments is another way of connecting with self, connecting with what's really going on. Now, thriving leaders, therefore, are conscious leaders. Thriving leaders are conscious leaders. Now, regarding this, you may remember this, and you might be now wondering, I wonder if my leaders are thriving. Some of you might be even going, I wonder if I'm thriving. But are my leaders thriving? Are my managers thriving? Are my supervisors thriving? So how do you find out? How do you find out? Well, there is a very interesting thing that you can do. And we have a little assessment called the EGG 3 Leadership Assessment. This assessment measures 3 dimensions of leadership, but the first dimension is, are you currently a survivor, a striver, or a thriver? So it looks at 2 others as well, but that's the big focus. And that is available for you for free. So you will find out in your goodie bags that you would have got cards like this. And these cards give you access to this assessment that will tell you, and you can get all your leaders to do it, and that'll tell you, are they currently in survivor, in striver, or in thriver? So great little assessment that you can use with your people. And that's available to you today. And if you can't find that card, and you haven't taken a picture of the QR code, just come see us afterwards. Maybe Marie, you can just wave your hand. We'll be over there, and we can help you. Now, what about a second thing? A second thing is to leverage consciousness to be tenacious. So we've gone from consciousness, now we want to be tenacious, thriving in tough times, right? So let's have a look at this. The first thing is know your purpose. Why do I say that? Because I keep coming across people saying, oh, we'll just guts it out. I'm tough. I can make it. We can see it through. The problem is we need a substance to base that on. Sometimes that's just bravado. And we don't want to be bravado. We want to be genuine tenacity. And so we need to know our purpose. We need to know our values. Again, part of the conversation that Darren and I were having last night was about values. Are we really we want to hold our staff accountable to live values, to be ethical? Are we? And you know what one of the key things is for me there? Is you probably all think, no, I'm an ethical person. Yeah, no, I've got good values. I'm ethical. I've got integrity. And then I ask people, so how's your integrity with yourself? That diet that you committed to, did you stick to it? Or did you betray yourself? That thing that you committed that you would do, or did you deviate from? So integrity starts with self. And I'm not talking about perfectionism, by the way. Thriving leaders are not perfect. We're really clear about this. They're on a journey, but they're not perfect. But they are aware of their own values violations. They are aware of what are the things that are going on, what are the things that are stimulating. And these become purpose-driven leaders. They know what they are, they know who they are, but even more importantly, they know why they are. And when you know your why, you will get through tough times. You will have a tenacity that will get you through. Know your why, know your purpose. And then be aware. Let's be aware. Let's not put our head in the sand. When things are shifting, politically, economically, climate-wise, when things are shifting, we want to be aware. When there's rumbles happening with our people. One of the things I loved that CGA talked about this morning was this idea that that they had this list they had to fill out every day on the Lions tour. Do you know that information about your people? Do you know what their state of wellness is? Do you know what their mental health is like? Do you know your own state of mental health, your own state of fitness, your own state of wellness? Are you aware of these things? You see, tenacity, it comes through purpose-driven awareness. And the awareness is so critical. Awareness of what's going on. Are we even aware of our impact on our people when we are leading? You know, one of the things that I come across so often is that there are still these remnants and pockets of command and control style leadership. And one of the things that fascinates me, and I can say this because of some of the conversations we've had over the last 2 days, is I'm always astounded at how many people will call themselves Christians, but actually not read what Jesus had to say about leadership. You know, like, do not lord it over them, not so for you. Sounds like command and control wasn't part of his teaching. Interesting. So what's the alternative? Consciousness and thriving. So, one last piece here. 2 elements to it. We heard from Brett Archibald yesterday about surviving all those hours in the sea. But what was really interesting, some of us were thinking, geez, what willpower. What incredible willpower. He's got such willpower. But he told us that there were 8 times that he gave up. 8 times that he gave up. And you know what the neuroscience says about willpower? It says it's a very finite, limited resource. And tenacity, if you're relying on willpower, it is unsustainable. You will fail. If willpower is your approach to tenacity, you will fail. So what the research says, by the way, and I'll quickly just explain this, is that it says that there are leaders who, not leaders, there are people who have incredible willpower through tests. They test them by putting their hands in ice for prolonged periods of time, all this kind of thing. And the ones who come up with the highest willpower, you know what the research says about them? They hardly ever use it. Because they know it's a finite resource. And so they do not rely on willpower. They manage their life to not need willpower by building capacity. And then when they need it, they've got it. Isn't that interesting? So what is sustainable if willpower isn't sustainable? Here's a shocker. Love. And I was thinking, I've been puzzling over the last couple of days, how am I going to explain this to you? I mean, that leadership is love. Because many of you are going, oh, you've got to be kidding. I've had enough. I don't want to be nice to my people. Well, what if I said to you, niceness is not love? And CJ put it so beautifully this morning because he gave me the example I was looking for, better than the one I had. And he said this, the best friends, the friends that are your closest friends are the ones that give you the hardest time. Because they have your interests at heart. That is love. What I sometimes show when I show this picture is a picture of a mother bird kicking the baby bird out of the nest. That's love. That's love. Love has the heart and the capacity, and he spoke, of Anthony Foley and just this capacity that he had to help CJ see it through. That is love. But love also challenges. Love is not complacent. Leadership is love. And we need to nurture it inside of us if we want to be great leaders. I was raised on this idea that, you mustn't love yourself too much. And then one day, in my 2011 experience I shared with you, I woke up one morning with this revelation. You cannot love yourself too much. Do you know why you cannot love yourself too much? Because it wouldn't be love anymore. Because love is not selfish. And so if real love is not selfish, you cannot love yourself too much. And the more you nurture love inside, the more capacity you have for your people, the more capacity you have to orient your people towards the results, the more capacity you have to grow your people, the more capacity we have then to handle tough times. So, thriving leaders are tenacious leaders. Thriving leaders are tenacious leaders. Now, I have one more little thing. I have written a book, and this book is called Lead Like Morpheus. It is the genius of conscious leadership, and we have 5 copies to give away. So I'm going to just say the last part of this book, the book has got 3 parts, and the last part deals with being conscious, tenacious, and triumphant, the exact story that I'm telling you today. So that's in the last part of this book. And so to give the book away, I'm going to ask Masangulu to come forward and help us. We have some stress ball eggs. And Masangulu, I would like you to make sure that they're evenly distributed. So people, you're ready to catch, and then you can come. And just Marie, just hold up a book there or something. Come and see us during the break, and we will give you a signed copy of my book in exchange for the egg. Unless, of course, you want to keep the egg instead, but that's up to you. And the copy, by the way, this is our collector's full color edition of the book. Kind of a coffee table, nice desktop reference, full color edition. Go for it, my friend. Whoa! And one last one. Whoa! Round of applause to all of the. Oh, you guys, one more. Okay. Hey. That was one of those juggling catches. Well done, well done. So, so the book is now, we do have a couple of extra copies for anybody who does want to buy one. It is the collector's edition. It's available, and you can come and see us later if you do want that as well. Okay, very good. So, third part. Leverage tenacity to be triumphant. Leverage tenacity to be triumphant. We want to take this tenacity and let it lead to our success, sustainable success, success that does not drain our people, success that helps our people to grow, and we constantly have this capacity, sustained success, so we call it triumphant. And the first thing here is we need to be very aware of our own conditioning. This starts with a personal awareness that can lead to this. Are we aware of the game that we're playing and our condition for that game? Are we, for example, also aware of playing the game to win, thank you, CJ, but not get injured? And we see people who are battling and striving and surviving in tough times, but getting injured in the process. Whether it's a wellness issue, whether it is some or other kind of damage. So we want to be so conditioned as leaders, and I'm talking about the internal conditioning, the awareness that we can triumph. But it's not limited to that. One of the things I discovered in my journey, especially in 2011, is that everything is internal to external. It's kind of like it's the way the world works. It's the kingdom principle, if you like. It's this thing that everything that we do internally has an impact externally. And to give you an example, in 2011, when I started to make myself my number one job every day, which was very difficult initially, I'd open the curtains, look out the window and go, I am my number one job today. And my inner critic would start, and you know what very quickly happened? Without changing a single technique, my impact as a leader just suddenly started going up. I suddenly had people coming to me and saying, that teaching, it not only changed my team, but it changed my parenting, it changed my marriage. Suddenly, because of the inner work, the outer impact was bigger. So everything is internal to external. And great triumphing is not our triumph. It's our triumph through our people and through their people. And so ultimately, great triumphing in leadership is multi-generational. And I'm not just talking about passing the business or the farm onto your children. I'm talking about the multi-generational impact that suddenly our great leadership is starting to impact society. We're starting to see people who become our staff, who become better parents, who raise better children, and all of this. That is the multi-generational nature of a conscious, tenacious, triumphant leader. And finally, that allows us to leave a legacy. To leave a legacy. Now, some of you are thinking, oh, no, I'm not here to leave. I'm not that proud or that arrogant that I can think. And I have a little question for you if you're not sure if you want to leave a legacy or not. And my question is this. Do you want to leave this earth in the same condition that you found it? Or do you want to leave it in a better place? And if your answer to that question is yes, then we are talking about go on that journey, become more conscious, become more sustainably tenacious, become more sustainably triumphant, and a legacy will follow. Your children. There will be people to take over from you. Justin, you've got people taking over from you. People that you've raised up. People that are ready. Because everything rises and falls on leadership, and we are not raising children, we are raising adults. Wouldn't it be wonderful if our staff were all adults? It'd be amazing. So, thriving leaders are triumphant leaders. So this is thriving through tough times. Conscious, tenacious, triumphant. But now I want to leave you with a choice. 3 choices. Do you want your team, your people, to stay in a current state of survivor? It's a choice. You could. It's an option. It's up to you. And I'd rather people consciously said, yes, I can't see another way for a while. I'm going to choose, yes, that is where I am at survivor. I'd rather you did that than made no choice. Because it's the first step towards becoming a thriver leader, is making a choice, even if it is to be a survivor. The second choice could be to be a striver. I want to focus in. I want to focus on the results, and it might not be sustainable in the long term with my people, but I'm willing to take that chance because I might burn them up a little bit. It's your choice. It's your choice. And I want to place before you a third choice. And that third choice is to be a thriver leader that has sustainable impact, sustainable triumph, multi-generational. That is your choice. Thank you.